When The Patriot stormed into theaters in 2000, audiences were swept into the fire of the American Revolution through the eyes of Benjamin Martin, a peaceful farmer turned vengeance-driven warrior played by Mel Gibson. The movie was packed with thunderous battles, raw emotion, and a sweeping musical score that made history feel alive. But behind the epic story lies a trove of bizarre, controversial, and downright fascinating secrets. From fake history to real injuries, from scandalous debates to hidden truths about its stars, The Patriot is full of strange facts that most fans never heard about. Get ready to reload your musket of curiosity, because we're diving deep into 15 weird facts about this Revolutionary War classic. The movie almost got banned in the UKW when The Patriot premiered. It sparked a storm in Britain. Critics accused the filmmakers of twisting history to make the British look like monsters. Many pointed to scenes showing redcoats murdering civilians and burning churches, atrocities that never occurred during the American Revolution. The British press called the film a dangerous work of propaganda. Some theaters in the UK even refused to screen it. In response, Columbia Pictures released statements clarifying that the story was fiction, not a historical record. Despite the outrage, the controversy only fueled curiosity, boosting the film's box office numbers abroad. Benjamin Martin was based on multiple real men, not just one. Benjamin Martin isn't a single historical figure, but a blend of several real-life Revolutionary War heroes. The biggest influence was Francis Marion, known as the Swamp Fox, who used guerrilla warfare to outsmart British forces in the South. However, Marion's reputation was far darker than the film suggests. He owned slaves and committed violent acts even by wartime standards. Other inspirations included Thomas Sumter and Andrew Pickens, both South Carolina militia leaders. The film's producers intentionally avoided naming one real person to sidestep criticism, though it didn't stop historians from calling the movie a fantasy version of the Revolution. Heath Ledger beat out major stars for his role before The Patriot. Heath Ledger was a little-known Australian actor. When he auditioned for the role of Gabriel Martin, he faced tough competition from names like Josh Hartnett and Ryan Philippe. Director Roland Emmerich later said Ledger's audition had a calm strength and purity that instantly felt right. Mel Gibson reportedly told the studio, "That's the one. He's got the fire." Ledger's breakout performance in The Patriot opened Hollywood's doors, paving the way for his later iconic roles, including A Knight's Tale and The Dark Knight. Mel Gibson performed nearly all his own stunts, despite being in his mid-40s at the time. Gibson insisted on doing most of his own stunts. That included charging through explosions, swinging tomahawks, and riding horses through muddy swamps. The crew begged him to use doubles for the violent close combat scenes, but Gibson refused. He reportedly told Emmerich, "If my character bleeds, it should be mine." He suffered bruises, cuts, and even a pulled shoulder during filming. Yet, Gibson's commitment helped make the film's battle scenes feel brutally authentic. The church burning scene sparked global outrage. One of the most disturbing moments in The Patriot shows British soldiers locking civilians inside a church and setting it on fire. The scene horrified viewers, and historians were quick to point out that nothing like it ever happened during the American Revolution. The event more closely resembled Nazi war crimes in World War II. European critics accused the filmmakers of borrowing Holocaust imagery to demonize the British. Director Emmerich defended the scene as a symbolic act showing the horror of war, but it remains one of the film's most controversial creative choices. The film used over 700 muskets and 100 cannons, built from scratch to recreate the Revolutionary War with stunning accuracy. The prop team built hundreds of muskets, rifles, pistols, and cannons from scratch. Each weapon was crafted to fire black powder blanks, creating real smoke and recoil on set. The sound design was so realistic that veterans on the crew said it gave them chills. The production had to apply for special federal permits because of the sheer number of functioning firearms used. By the end of filming, The Patriot had one of the largest private arsenals ever assembled for a movie. Filming locations were a blend of history and Hollywood magic, though set across the Carolinas. Nearly all of The Patriot was filmed in South Carolina, mainly around Charleston and Rock Hill. The production transformed modern fields into authentic 18th century landscapes. They even built entire villages from scratch, using techniques from colonial carpentry. Some battlefields were actually golf courses that the crew covered with dirt, smoke, and digital effects. Many local residents were hired as extras and even brought family heirlooms to add authenticity to the scenes. Gibson's paycheck was record-breaking at the height of his fame. Mel Gibson earned around $25 million for his role in The Patriot. That paycheck made him one of the highest-paid actors in the world at the time. To put that in perspective, his salary alone was more than the entire production budget of other major war films. Studio executives justified it by calling Gibson a guarantee of global box office success. Indeed, the movie grossed over $215 million worldwide, proving that Gibson's star power was worth every penny. The director was German, not American. It's ironic that one of the most American movies of the early 2000s was directed by a German filmmaker. Roland Emmerich, best known for massive blockbusters like Independence Day and Godzilla, brought a unique outsider's perspective to the story of America's fight for freedom. Emmerich said he was fascinated by how Americans mythologize their own history. Critics later called The Patriot an American legend told by a European eye, a blend of truth, fantasy, and Hollywood heroism. 10. The child actors went through colonial boot camp. The film's younger cast members were required to attend a colonial boot camp before filming began. They learned everything from lighting fires and churning butter to using quill pens and farming with hand tools. The goal was to make their on-screen behavior feel natural to the 1700s. The camp also taught 18th century manners, how to bow, curtsy, and address elders properly. One actor later said, "It felt like we were living in another century." Yes, the costumes were painfully authentic. Costume designer Deborah Lynn Scott went all in on historical accuracy. Every uniform was hand-stitched using 18th century techniques and natural fabrics. The wool coats and leather boots were historically correct, but brutally hot. During summer filming, temperatures often exceeded 100 degrees, and actors fainted from heat exhaustion inside their heavy uniforms. Despite complaints, the crew refused to switch to lighter materials, fearing it would ruin the realism on camera. The production team grew real crops for key scenes to make the Martin family farm look authentic. The crew planted actual corn and tobacco fields months before filming began. They carefully timed the shoots so the plants would be at the perfect height for camera framing. When the scenes were done, local farmers were invited to harvest the crops for real use. This level of preparation shows how far the production went to bring the Revolutionary War era to life on screen. The original axe scene was too brutal to show. One of the most intense moments in the movie comes when Benjamin Martin uses a tomahawk and axe to exact revenge. The original cut of this scene was so graphic that test audiences were visibly shaken. The studio feared it would push the movie into an NC-17 rating, so several seconds of blood and gore were removed. Gibson later admitted the full version was the most violent thing I ever filmed, but said it accurately reflected the rage of his character. Real injuries happened on set during one chaotic battle sequence. An extra was struck by flying debris from an explosion and suffered a nasty gash on his leg. Another actor burned his hands while reloading a musket with hot powder. Instead of halting production, both men insisted on finishing their scenes before receiving treatment. Director Emmerich called their dedication the spirit of the Patriot. The production's safety record remained solid overall, but many scenes were physically punishing to film. The film boosted Revolutionary War tourism after The Patriot hit theaters. Interest in the American Revolution skyrocketed. Museums, battlefield tours, and historical sites in the Carolinas saw a huge surge in visitors. School teachers even used scenes from the movie to spark discussions about early American history, though many warned students about its fictional elements. For many Americans, The Patriot was their first emotional introduction to the Revolution, proving Hollywood can make history feel alive, even when it bends the truth. More than 2 decades later, The Patriot stands as one of Hollywood's most ambitious war epics, equal parts thrilling, emotional, and controversial. It may not be historically perfect, but its mix of personal sacrifice, vengeance, and national pride still resonates with audiences today. Beneath its sweeping battles and dramatic speeches lies a collection of strange and fascinating stories, from Gibson's fearless dedication to the film's wild historical liberties. Whether you see it as patriotic art or myth-making entertainment, The Patriot remains a cinematic revolution of its own, a movie as complex and unpredictable as the history it tried to capture.